Welcome into the Diamond Vols Podcast on GoVols247.com. I am Ben McKee from GoVols247.com, and I am joined by former Tennessee baseball two-way star Will Heflin, mostly known as a left-handed pitcher, but did some damage with the bat as well, much like the Josh Elander Vols did this weekend. A lot of damage on the mound, a lot of damage at the plate, and we have a bunch to discuss tonight. And I'm really excited for this podcast, Will. The last couple of podcasts we've done, they've been fun. I've been excited to do them, but this one feels a little bit different. I am very much I care more about breaking down what we see in the games than talking about eligibility cases and court cases, NCAA rules, and these All-American teams, these projections, those preseason rankings. Let's talk ball, and that's what we are going to do tonight. But before we do that, my man, how are you? How did you enjoy opening weekend? I'm sure you took in just as much SEC baseball, college baseball outside of Knoxville as you did Tennessee baseball. So how did you enjoy opening weekend?
It was great, and I'm with you in the same boat in that it's fun to do the preseason ones, but it's better to actually talk about what actually happened and what did you do, not what do we think you might do. This, if that. No more ifs now. It's overreaction Sunday as we rehash the Vols opening series. No, it was a good weekend. It was fun to watch all around the country. I find myself watching the Shriners the most, where Tennessee will be in a couple weeks, just because it's where you get the biggest matchups. So, like, I watched a lot of Arkansas this weekend. I watched a lot of TCU. Texas Tech was there. And then there was a tournament in Surprise, Arizona, that I watched a lot of. It was Arizona, it was Stanford, it was Michigan, and it was Oregon State and some others. But those were some of the big names there. A lot of teams impressed. Some SEC teams struggled, even outside of the bigger tournaments. Some had some hiccups at home in what you would think are tune-up matchups, but I'm sure we'll touch on those. But it was great to get 2 good days of weather. I think Tennessee did the smart thing to just go ahead and play 2 yesterday because it was super nice, and today was not. So smart to make sure they got those in, and they did so. An overall successful weekend for the first 3 games of the Josh Elander era. So he is still undefeated as a head coach because, remember, he was undefeated as the acting head coach when thrust into that role prior to this year. But now as the actual head coach, he's 3-0, so good to start that way.
Technically 1-0. I asked that question over the weekend. Those previous wins go to Tony Vitello. The actual head coach still gets credit for the wins, even if he's not actually coaching in the game. So I learned that over the weekend because I had the same thought as you. I was like, wait a minute. So is this on Friday night, is this actually Josh Elander's first career win? And it was. Those ones in the past, though we view them as him coaching Tennessee to a win, they technically went to Tony Vitello. I thought that was interesting when I found that out.
I had never looked into it, but I had assumed that. I think that's the right way to do it. Otherwise, it just gets way too complex, and you don't want to hang let's say you lose. You don't want to hang a loss on a guy who literally just is filling in because the head coach did something. Like,
right.
I'm trying to think. This weekend, Sully was out for their opener, and they lost due to his suspension from the regional. I don't know if he came back for the next 2 or if he had to serve the whole weekend, but they won the next 2. I was just thinking about the loss to UAB on Friday, and that should go to him. I mean, if you're the head coach, even if you're not in the dugout that game, it's your team. Football would be a different discussion. There's a lot, like Sharon Moore when he filled in for Harbaugh a couple years ago. I know that's a interesting one to bring up now, but we're not talking about recent events. We're talking about when he was serving the suspension or whatever. Really, what led to Moore getting the job full time was Michigan played so well when he was filling in. But those, I would imagine, those still go on Harbaugh's record as well. But you could make a better case in football because, like, there's more going on in football, and there's less games, right? It's like 1 of 56. Keep it tidy. I digress.
Before we jump into our Tennessee baseball topics, which we have a bunch of, we're going to share our biggest takeaway from the weekend, who and kind of goes hand in hand, but whose stock is up after opening weekend. We're gonna kind of go through whose stock we view as a little bit down after opening weekend, or maybe who we viewed as having a disappointing weekend. And then I think just running down the grid, I think we've got every topic that needs to be discussed covered on tonight's podcast. So we've got a bunch to discuss, and we will talk a little SEC baseball before we get out of here at the tail end, if Will and I haven't yapped too long, which we tend to do just because we love talking baseball so much. But I am curious your viewing experience watching the tournament out in Arlington, because the Tennessee fans are going to have to deal with that in 2 weeks. If I'm not mistaken, you have to pay for that. At least I hope you do, because I didn't tune in this weekend because I assumed that you had to pay. I don't think it was on Watch ESPN. I hope I'm correct on that. How was the viewing experience? Because that is something Tennessee fans will have to deal with in 2 weeks.
Yeah, well, you have to pay for ESPN Plus as well, in case
True.
you didn't know. But Flow Baseball,
but at least you get that for the entire season, all the games, and it is cheaper. Flow Baseball. Ooh, that one puts a dent in your pocket, especially for 3 baseball games.
Yeah, if you're only getting it for the one weekend, I definitely feel that. I may or may not have a father-in-law who uses it for other sports,
A plug.
some dirt track racing. So maybe go on there and see what else they offer, and see if you can find a buddy if the one weekend isn't enough to justify the Flow Baseball. But it's a great streaming service. There was a new one called Victory Plus that was free that I'd never heard of or seen until this weekend, and that was what the Puerto Rico games were on, which was like Wake Forest, Houston. Who else was down there?
Houston was the one that I was aware of, in Wake Forest.
Houston and Wake played the first game down there, and then there were some others. Maybe UConn, maybe Seton Hall. They were in a tournament. I don't know if it was
Or
down
Seton
there.
Hall.
I think it was down there. I know. How tough.
How about that ending?
That is tough. For those of you that didn't see it, guy hits an absolute moonshot home run, assuming it's his first home run of the year because it was opening night, and either breaks his leg or ankle rounding first base. Doesn't get it.
It looked like a clean dislocation of the ankle.
Yeah, it's tough. Like, there was no let's get the x-rays, let's see. Like, no, it was get the stretcher, get this guy in an air cast pronto. It's broken. Yeah. So well wishes to him. Tough way to start your year. But Victory Plus was free, so maybe in years to come it'll stay that way, and Tennessee will be on one of the tournaments will be on that. But Flow Baseball in a couple weeks. It's nice because there's no commercials. You can kind of click through it if you need to. And it's really easy to stream to your TV. It always pops up and asks. I have a Samsung. I don't know if it works as well on other ones, but every time I pull up the app and I have the TV on, it's like, do you want to play it to your TV? And I'm like, nah, just keep it on my phone. Because I got the Vols on the TV, different one on the phone. That's how you fan.
That is how you fan. I think a lot of Tennessee fans were doing that on Saturday evening because, as you mentioned earlier, Tennessee had to go with a doubleheader on Saturday, and that coincided with the basketball game at 6:00, which was an absolute debacle for me in terms of having to cover both. And as I've said before, if I could do one thing in this life, at least in terms of work, it would be the ability to clone myself so I can be in 2 places at once, because I hate missing one or the other. I hate being away from basketball. I hate being away from baseball. I genuinely love covering both programs because of the people within both programs. I've covered Rick Barnes since I was a student, and he has just been so gracious with me as I have matured at least a little bit. I'm still very immature and still do not know what I'm doing, but I know a little bit more about what I'm doing, just a little bit more than I do 7-8 years ago. So I love covering each program, but Saturday was tough. I could not be in 2 places at once, and the baseball game was dragging on because, of course, Sunday pitching for these non-conference opponents does not exist. They do not have players who can throw the baseball over the middle of the plate in these game threes. I think when I become commissioner of college baseball, I'm going to implement a rule in which the home team can decide if it wants to allow the opponent to borrow a pitcher, because Tennessee would have gotten more out of hitting off of its own players in game three than hitting off the other team, than hitting off of Nicholls' pitching staff. I mean, it's 2 outs in the bottom of the first, and the entire Nicholls pitching staff is running to the bullpen after back-to-back walks. So that is going to be my rule when I become college baseball commissioner, that in this instance, Tennessee could have allowed some of its freshmen to go throw for Nicholls to its own players, to its own teammates. It would have sped the game up, and it would have been more entertaining, and Tennessee would have got more out of it. Who says no? I even think Nicholls would go along with it as well. But I digress, and fans having to stream basketball, baseball at the same time, I'm sure they felt that on Saturday night. But good thing they did not play today, because it would have been a miserable day for baseball after it was 2 beautiful days of baseball on Friday and Saturday. Got a little dreary there towards the end of the doubleheader, but was still a really good day for baseball. And before we get into our biggest takeaway, Will, I just kind of want to touch on what Friday was for the Tennessee baseball program. It felt like a celebration with the opening of the renovated Lindsay Nelson Stadium. I know there were also renovations that fans enjoyed last season, but you finally could see the big picture that Tony Vitello and Josh Elander and the administration had been building and working towards, and it just looks absolutely phenomenal. It really does. The stadium is top notch. The environment is top notch. The product this weekend on the field, top notch. It was just a really cool celebration for Tennessee baseball on Friday. It did feel weird to kind of celebrate because Tony Vitello wasn't there. Chris Burke and I talked about that when I had him on the podcast last week. During that segment, he asked me how weird it was going to be, and it was weird. It feels weird. Don't get me wrong, that the guy, even though he wasn't literally the only person, but people are saying, hey, this is the house that Tony built. Like, he wasn't there. He was off in San Francisco taking ground balls and doing PFPs with the big leaguers. So it did feel weird. But even despite the weirdness, it was, I thought, a really cool celebration for Tennessee baseball on Friday, and a great way to kick off the Josh Elander era.
Yeah, I agree. It is weird without 22, and I think it'll continue to be that way, especially when we get into big spots, because there were just things you knew you were going to get from Tony, like him walking out of the dugout a certain way, or something happens and here he comes, something like that, or his post-game pressers are something that I always look forward to. I mean, he's one of the best speakers, and you don't know what he's going to say. Like, he was phenomenal, and Elander is great to listen to too, but it's a change. So, but the celebration part, I think it's second year in a row, because while it wasn't done last year, there were some additions down the third base line, but second year in a row, the season opener is a Lindsay Nelson Stadium record in attendance, which was Hofstra and now Nicholls. So pretty cool. And it wasn't even completely packed. It was a great crowd, but we're going to break that record easily come SEC play and, some warmer weather when basketball is over, stuff like that. So
Tournament time is going to be real fun in there.
Yeah. Good luck coming to a regional in Knoxville in that place. It's where it's up to par now. Right. And that's a really cool feeling, just as a fan of the program. And, you look around the league all the time, and that's just part of it. It doesn't matter what sport or conference or level you're in. You're going to look at your peers, whether it's your division in professional or conference in college or high school or district, I guess it would be in high school. Like, you're going to compare, and that's who you're competing to. Right. And so Tennessee needs to be competing on the same playing field as its, opponents. And there's obviously going to be stadiums that have history and the size in Tennessee where that we just can't compete with. But this is competitive now, and it looks great, and it's unique. It's ours, so it's really cool. Glad it's finally done. It was an awesome like celebration just to see it kind of unveiled and people in it for the first time. And the boxes look really sick, so pretty good.
Yeah, and you mentioned that it's on par with other SEC stadiums. I would even add that it surpassed a couple as well. I mean, I don't know that I would put it in tier one. I mean, doing this off the dome. I mean,
Yeah.
Mississippi State, LSU, Arkansas, probably tier one. But Tennessee, tier two, without a doubt. Florida's new ballpark is really, really nice. I just don't think the crowd at Florida is what it is at those other places. But it's on par with Ole Miss and South Carolina, and those are cathedrals in the sport. So not only is Tennessee baseball now on par with those other premium SEC baseball programs from the last 2 decades, but I think when you look at it nationally, Tennessee surpassed a lot of programs as well. I thought also, it was really cool to see just college baseball as a whole be celebrated this weekend. I don't know if it's just me because I'm in the thick of it. Maybe you're not even the best to ask about it either because you're also in the thick of it in terms of loving it and being interested. Maybe we would need to get the perspective of somebody who's kind of neutral to college baseball. But it felt like a lot of people were interested in college baseball this weekend, which I thought was really cool because I saw a lot of people tweeting at ESPN about their lack of commitment to covering the sport over the weekend.
Yeah, I mean, my algorithms are completely geared to like that's all I'm gonna see on opening weekend. So it'd be interesting to ask, like, if you're somebody who's maybe more of a college basketball person, then let us know if you thought there was an uptick in I guess just buzz for there being opening day. But it's awesome to see the game growing, and Tennessee's certainly right in the thick of that. But yeah, I'm definitely not the person to ask if there was an uptick in buzz or whatever because I'm seeking it out regardless. But I do agree with your point. Like tier two is probably fair. I think you could argue you could maybe group A&M in tier one, borderline tier two, but like Tennessee's right there,
Texas.
um, in the middle of tier two, which is tier 1A
Yeah.
nationally, right? It's a
Right.
phenomenal park, but let's not forget it's always the people that make up the parks. And you can have as nice of a stadium as you want. There's some stadiums around the country that are just so nice, but they stink because they don't fill them, right? And in football, I wouldn't consider Autzen Stadium at 70,000 people being a top 10 stadium, but they constantly get ranked there because of the people, right? They're crazy. So that's kind of what Lindsay Nelson was known for before these big upgrades. So we got to keep the personality of the stadium, and now we just have the amenities to match the good product of people both on and off the field.
You are the person to ask if we should change my Blaine Brown prediction. Is Blaine Brown going to hit 30 home runs for Tennessee this season?
Well, he's on pace for 56 regular season homers. So, I don't know if that pace will continue. I hope it does. I think the pitching will get better. But I think 25 was the original prediction. I think that's like that's fair at the absolute most. It's arguably conservative. So yeah, I
Do you
think
think he gets to 25 after watching him this weekend?
his
While you
path
think
is
about that,
so
did he? I know you thought great things of Blaine Brown, and it was just kind of a shtick here on the show on the podcast. But so you expected great things from him this weekend, but even with those high expectations, did he surpass your expectations this weekend, or was that what you expected?
I mean, the thing about him that stood out the most was the guy absolutely looks the part. I mean, he steps in the box and it's like different, right? He's long, he looks strong, and the bat path is so pure. The only reason I would say, okay, maybe he doesn't get to 30 is you saw a lot of line drives up the middle, which is a good thing, right? But it doesn't look like he's up there trying to hit homers. I mean, the two to pull side were 2 irons. They barely were high enough to get out. They were hit, over 100 miles an hour with ease, so they carried out and they had backspin. But I could see him going a couple weeks where it's a lot of line drives and no homers. But if you ask me right now, is he getting to 25? I'm not telling you no, because he's probably going to have a week where maybe he's just under a couple balls, or he looks so strong. He's gonna hit him to all parts of the field. Like the one backside looked pretty effortless, and so he looks like he's gonna hit the ball on the barrel a lot. And when you hit it hard on the barrel a lot, you hit more homers. So logic would tell you that 20 is certainly not enough. I think if I had to put a line on him, I would say like 23 and a half would be where I'd put it. So I think he's going to, I'm just talking regular season. He's over 20, between 20 and 25. If you're saying, they play a few games in Hoover at least, and they host a regional and they go to supers, maybe they host supers, like, yeah, he's probably getting to 30.
All right. So you would certainly take the over on 23 and a half.
Yeah.
I mean, look, the pace will certainly slow down, but I am feeling very good about my bold prediction not looking so bold anymore. Isn't it fair to say that if your bold prediction ends up not being very bold in hindsight, you nailed your bold prediction?
Was it bold on the front end?
I think it was. 25 home runs is a lot in college baseball.
Yeah.
I know we're seeing it more common. It's more common these days. I get it, but it still takes a special talent to reach that number.
No, it does for sure. Yeah, I mean, I'm just thinking like, okay, he's got several weekends in a row where he hits multiple in one game like he did this weekend, and it's like those add up quickly, right? Like he could be well over 10 before SEC play even starts. And then, if he hits a few in midweeks, like you could get to 20 pretty quickly, and then it's just like, can you hit a couple week hot streak where you hit a lot of homers down the stretch? That's kind of what it comes down to. Like SEMO had that run where it was just every game for like 10 games in a row. And that took him from like 20 to, he passed Burke. He, was now the all-time leader at Tennessee. And all of a sudden he's over 30, and you're like, holy cow. So
you're like, holy cow, this guy should have won Golden Spikes Award. That's how.
Well, that's my thing. That's my thing about Brown is like, I don't know if the home run total is the discussion to be having. Like, he looks like he's going to hit for a really high average and be in the conversation for Golden Spikes.
Yes, which is far more important than hitting 25 home runs. But he certainly is, I think, not only the storyline around Tennessee baseball that Tennessee fans are talking about, but I think that he truly emerged as a storyline nationally to people who cover college baseball as a whole. And fans of the sport, I think, are well aware that Tennessee baseball has another one on its hands. And as crazy as like Henry Ford looked awesome as well, and Blaine Brown completely overshadowed him. Was that – I've got a separate question that you and I texted about the other day, but I'm going to ask you this one first, because the duo of Henry and Brown, does that sound like a law firm to you? Henry and Brown? Blaine and Henry? Ford and Brown? What's the best law firm name?
Law firm name, you definitely need Henry and Brown.
All right.
So you got one first name, one last name. If you go Ford and Blaine, now you're talking tow and auto shop,
Yeah, I like
an
Henry,
auto body shop.
I like Henry and Brown better.
Yeah. Maybe it's just because it's Ford, but Blaine kind of gives you that gritty,
Yeah.
well.
Either one.
Blaine and Ford.
Right. I like the blue collar
Brown.
approach.
Yeah, they're a part of the Marcos Garza team or something.
Yes, absolutely. So Henry and Brown, we've established it here on the Diamond Vols podcast. Sam Smith is in charge of printing those T-shirts. Get on those, Sam. Start selling them outside. Make sure you include Blaine and Henry on the funds. That way you don't get sued in today's day and age of name, image, and likeness. And just make sure you throw a little Diamond Vols podcast logo on the shirts in the process. But question that I'm getting to is, was Blaine Brown your biggest takeaway? What was the duo of those two your biggest takeaway, or would you go elsewhere with your biggest takeaway from the weekend?
I would go elsewhere.
All right, where would you go?
I know you had the take or whatever, but that was kind of the story out of camp, was like, he's the real deal. You had seen him, like, we expected him to be good, and we knew what Ford was coming in. He was the top hitter in the portal. I guess you kind of alluded that it might happen, but him being in the leadoff was certainly a surprise to some who maybe hadn't listened. They thought, he would be a 3 or 4 guy. But I did really like the look of it, them at the 1-2. It kind of reminds you of something. It's hard.
We'll talk about that. We'll talk about that after you give us your biggest takeaway.
I think my biggest takeaway was collectively the pitching staff just pretty dominant. And, we'll see if that was a product of the opponent or if they're really in good position. But I don't want to say pleasantly surprised, but it just looked like a really, really simple but effective unit. And they all kind of went about it the same way, which was impressive to me. And that's the stuff that you kind of worry about when you have coaching change and the main voices are gone that you had in the fall. And it's like, whatever was in place or whatever they've done since, they seem to be comfortable with, right? And all on the same page. And that's easy to do when it's going well. And obviously with the stuff that they rolled out there. But that was my biggest takeaway. And the result of that is we really didn't get to see a whole lot of the bullpen. And we certainly didn't get to see anybody in the bullpen challenged with a tough situation. So that's a bad takeaway from a really good reason, but it is what it is. There's plenty of time for that. But overall, I thought the pitching staff was very, very businesslike in that they just did not create any issues for themselves.
No, not at all. Which always makes you feel good as a pitching coach when you're not giving free passes. And that was probably my biggest takeaway as well. My biggest positive takeaway, because I did, like you said, I expected Henry Ford and Blaine Brown to do what they did. Whereas the pitching was a little more unproven. Henry Ford and Blaine Brown have done more in their career than Teagan, than Landon. I know Blanco very much proven, but kind of had a down year last year because of injuries. And then as we talked about on our pitching preview podcast a couple of weeks ago, I was very high on the potential of the bullpen, but it's also a bullpen made up of a lot of guys who are unproven. And I very much like to know what I'm getting myself into. So for those reasons, it was good to see the pitching staff, quite frankly, dominate. So I agree with you that was my biggest takeaway. And we'll on the other side of the timeout, the other side of the break, we'll dive in a little bit deeper because I thought the bullpen of who did pitch was just as impressive as the starting rotation. But both the units were really, really strong. Before we do catch that timeout, though, just to put a bow on the Blaine Brown conversation and lump Henry Ford a bit more into it, you alluded to the conversation that's kind of starting to creep in. You and I were kind of texting about it today. I saw fans talking about it over the weekend. The law firm of Henry and Brown feels very similar to the auto shop of Burke and Semo.
Yeah,
Burke and Semo feel more like of an auto shop than a law firm.
Yeah, just the name, not the guy.
Well, I think just two great gritty baseball players. Not that Brown and Ford aren't, but we watched Blake and Semo play a lot more than we have these two newcomers, And I don't know, they have that grinded out type of game. And again, not to say that these don't, but we saw those guys do it for 3 years.
Yeah.
More blue collar, bring your lunch pail to work type of guys.
You're talking about the guy who plays in Los Angeles, right?
Yes.
Okay, just making sure. The guy from Brooklyn who now plays in Los Angeles. That Simo.
Yes, the guy from Brooklyn and the guy from Cali, much more inclined, I feel like, to run an auto shop than a law firm, quite frankly. But let's have fun with that conversation because people were having fun with it over the weekend. I'm
100%.
gonna ask it for you point blank. Is Henry Ford and Blaine Brown, Christian Moore and Blake Burke 2.0?
As of right now, yeah, there's some similarities, and there's some differences too. I think they kind of flip flopped. Like I would see Ford as much more of the Burke in that duo, and Blaine is much more the Simo. Although they're flip flopped on sides of the plate that they hit from, but and the order, but just Blaine gives me that like unbelievable hand speed and the flat bat path, and you can just see like it's a tough out always, and he's the guy that I would one up right now in a big moment, and that was always Simo. Always Simo. And Blake Burke was a great second option to that. And so Ford kind of gives me the Burke vibe in that you've got the mammoth power. You've got, really good discipline. I think that's why he's in the leadoff. Blaine, a little bit more aggressive. And that was kind of Simo's MO. Like Simo was never up there looking to walk. He just took him because teams really stopped pitching to him down the stretch. Took him way longer than it should. And they still had to at times. But those are my reasons. And yeah, there's some similarities. Now we'll see if they can put together the type of year that those two put together, because there is a long way to go for that. But if we're just talking, okay, you watched them and it's like, what does this remind you of? Yes, it absolutely reminded us of that because we're sitting here talking about it. So it's not like blasphemous to the other two guys. We're not saying they've surpassed, like they're on par with them or surpassed them. We're just saying we kind of see something.
Yeah, they're just a lot of fun to watch, and a long way to go, a lot for them to prove. But I think to be more realistic and not, again, that question is more just being fun, right? And giving us a way to talk about Ford and Brown. But I think what you can more realistically say is that good luck finding a better 1-2 punch at the top of a lineup in the country.
Yeah, they're certainly up there, if not the front runners at this point. Both on paper, what they did this weekend, and what you could see as far as upside. So that's a great top of the order to have.
Yeah, they're going to be a lot of fun to watch this year. And the good news for Tennessee fans is you get to watch Blaine Brown for 2 years, and I think he's going to play himself into 1-1 conversation for the 2027 draft because of all those tools that you were discussing when making the comparison to Simo. They're going to be a lot of fun to watch. So is this pitching staff, and we're going to dive a little more in depth to what we saw from the pitchers from Will Heflin's perspective on the other side of this. Quick timeout here on the Diamond Vols podcast on GoVols247.com. Welcome back into the Diamond Vols podcast on GoVols247.com. I am Ben McKee, and I am joined by Will Heflin on this Sunday, February 15th. I hope everybody had a happy Valentine's Day weekend and enjoyed their opening weekend of college baseball, enjoyed watching Tennessee baseball kick off the new era of Lindsay Nelson Stadium and Josh Elander. It was a lot of fun to be over at the stadium this weekend, and certainly looking forward to the rest of the season, especially once they get into SEC play and hopefully can create some awesome environments in the NCAA tournament down the road. Before we continue our conversation, I do need to ask if you wouldn't mind going into wherever you find our Go Vols 24/7 podcast. We're on all the streaming services. If you wouldn't mind going in and making sure that you are subscribed to us, and if you would be so kind to do so, giving us a review, giving us a like if you're so inclined. That would help us in a big way, help our audience grow, and we would certainly appreciate that. And of course, it seems like a lot of people are looking for Tennessee baseball content. If there's somebody out there who hasn't found the Diamond Vols podcast, the longest running podcast dedicated to Tennessee baseball, there's a lot of great Tennessee baseball podcasts out there. There's only been one that's been around since the beginning of the Tony Vitello era, and that's the Diamond Vols podcast. This was around when Will Heflin was playing. Young Ben, fresh out of college, was breaking down Will Heflin starts and appearances on the mound at some point. I'm sure it sounded awful, but it existed, and we've grown since then. And I was smart, and I went and got a guy that could talk about the game much better than I can in Will Heflin. So if there's a Tennessee baseball fan out there that's looking for more Tennessee baseball content, please send us their way. We would greatly appreciate it, and Sam Smith will send you a $10 check in the mail. Mr. William, let's run through this starting rotation, kind of go with what we saw. Let's start with Teagan, obviously, who looked phenomenal on Friday in his start. We talked on the previous podcast about how we wanted to see Teagan pitch with more conviction, land his secondary pitches, and boy, did he. What impressed you about a new and improved Teagan Coons on Friday night?
All of those things that we said we wanted to see, we saw. It was the best he'd looked in a Tennessee uniform. I thought the variation of breaking balls, it looked like there was more of a tight slider. We didn't have velo on the stream, so you may have better insight here, but it looked like there was more of a tight slider and the big curveball, which both were 4 strikes and 4 swing and misses when he needed them. Saw some change-ups that looked really good, and the fastball just right at you, right on you. I think they knew early that the fastball was getting on the Nicholls hitters to where it was going to be a fun night for Teagan. But that's way easier said than done, and he didn't put himself in any trouble. He worked with good tempo. He made it to the 85 pitch count with relative ease and didn't see a drop off in stuff. Again, you can touch on the velo where it was in those last few innings, but he just looked in shape, primed and ready, and in sync, which are all things that you wanted to see from Teagan. And for whatever you can take away from a first start, which for him, not a ton because it's Nicholls, but that's a building block. And you see why they threw him in there on Friday.
Yes, I loved most the conviction that he pitched with. He was strutting around the mound, which that was kind of the book on Teagan. People thought that of him when he got to Tennessee, of how he had a great vibe to him on the mound and pitched with an edge and had a lot of swagger and confidence. And I feel because of the nature of his freshman season, he lost that along the way. And with the offseason that he did have, with how he pitched in the Cape, he found it. And I thought it was on full display in terms of the edge and the swagger he was pitching with, throwing his pitches with conviction. It sounded like just in the post-game interviews, comments, that the changeup was kind of what Teagan was most proud of. Josh Elander talked about his ability to land right on right changeups, which obviously Teagan is a right-handed hitter or right-handed pitcher. So being able to land his changeup against right-handed hitters was key for him on Friday night, in addition to the velocity, slider, curveball, which looked strong as well. But Teagan seemed really proud of his changeup. I asked him what was different about his changeup, or I think the first question I asked him was, how are your pitches better this year? And he said, well, my changeup, that's what's better about my arsenal this year. And I said, what about your changeup is different? And he just said, well, I can actually throw it in the zone now. He joked that he couldn't throw it in the zone last year. So why is it important for a right-handed pitcher to land and pitch with success on those right changeups that Josh Elander talked about?
Not a ton of guys can do it. And when you do it at high velocity, off of a high velocity fastball, it's ridiculous. I think it's just most hitters are used to a four seam and then a slider off of that, right? And the slider has a different spin. It's spinning horizontally, and typically there's a dot, right? But the changeup oftentimes is much harder to pick up because it's not moving the same direction as a slider would. It's moving out of the hand like a fastball would until it puts on the brakes. And so anytime you can throw a changeup same side, so if you're a lefty, throw it to a left-handed hitter. If you're a righty, throw it to a right-handed hitter. It's just really challenging, but it's also really hard to execute as a pitcher. So that's why you don't see it a lot, because guys have a tendency to yank it, and then it just turns into a bad slider, or like a cut changeup where you kind of T-Rex arm it, or if you wipe across it, easier to hit a guy with. But, the guy that comes to mind that was really good at it for a long time was Zach Greinke. As a righty, and then Clayton Kershaw was willing to do it as a lefty. It's just another way to get guys out that they may not necessarily be used to. And then you put that on a scouting report going into SEC play, and guess what? Your 95 plays even higher. Your 96 plays even higher because they've got it in the back of their mind like, oh, this dude will go right on right changeup. So I can't just sit fastball unless I see spin. So it's very useful. It's kind of like a level up type deal.
Yeah, I mean, I think I obviously do not know pitching as well as you do, but just the importance of being able to pitch off of your fastball. We know Teagan has a great fastball. We talked about how everybody seems to have a great fastball these days. So it's the pitchers that separate themselves are the ones that can land their changeup and mix in their slider, mix in their curveball. It makes it so much more difficult for guys to hit. Well, if you're a hitter, what would you rather deal with Teagan throwing his fastball and his curveball every now and then, or would you rather face Teagan with his velocity off the fastball, a sharp curveball, sharp slider, and a changeup that he's landing in the zone? I mean, it just makes it so much more difficult to hit off of because it keeps you on your toes. What'd you see from Landon Mack? A lot of Chase Dolander comparisons. Even the head skipper has thrown that out there. Looked like his curveball was good. Elander talked about his cutter slider hybrid. What was really good for him on Saturday in the first game of the doubleheader. So 2 questions for you. What were your first impressions of Mack in his first start as a Tennessee pitcher? And then explain the importance of a cutter slider hybrid. What does that look like for a pitcher?
Well, it's either one or the other, technically, but I guess they're saying it's somewhere in the middle. It sounds like it's just a really hard breaking ball, like a hard slider that's not as big in terms of number of inches that it moves horizontally, but it's closer to the fastball and it moves enough and moves a little bit more than a cutter. So it just sounds like it's like trying to think, Jacob Mizorowski in the Brewers organization was throwing like 94-mile-an-hour sliders, and they were labeled as sliders, but it's 94, so it kind of looks like a cutter, that type of thing, the hybrid. So if his fastball was what, 94, 96 on Saturday?
Teagan, by the way, you mentioned that you couldn't see the velocity on the big board. I wasn't intently looking at the scoreboard for the velocities, but I feel like I saw a bunch of 6s for Teagan, kind of that 95 to 97 range. I feel is what I saw when I happened to catch a glimpse of it on the scoreboard. And Mac was kind of, somewhere in that same ballpark, maybe a touch below, but I mean, those guys both have premium heaters. It's not going to be completely revved up this time of the year.
Yeah. And what was the breaking ball for Mac? Velocity.
Curveball. The curve. I don't recall I did a poor job of checking out the velocities
That's
on the
all right.
scoreboard this weekend.
That's all right. You weren't. Us pitchers, we see the pitch, immediate check. See the pitch, immediate check. Especially when you're like, if you're in the press box or in the stands and you can't really tell, like if it's a big curveball, you kind of know, but like some of the cutter, sliders, or maybe changeup. There's typically a 2 mile an hour difference between the slider and the changeup for guys, so you can maybe tell on the radar gun if there's not, or I'm just a fiend for it. I don't know.
You
But
pitchers are fiends
that's
for it.
kind of that. That's kind of that on the cutter slider hybrid. I think it's unique for him, which is good. Like everybody has to find their own way to get people out.
Do you feel like that's harder? Do you feel like the hybrid is harder to hit than just a traditional slider or a traditional cutter?
Well, like I said, it's either one or the other. They're just saying I mean, one guy's cutter may be the same speed as his slider, and somebody's slider may be the same speed as another guy's cutter. Like you could have two different guys throw sliders 10 miles an hour different. So it's just whatever he calls it. It sounds like he's got more of a cutter grip and he throws it like a slider, or he's got more of a slider grip and he just throws it like a cutter. And that's kind of why they have molded it as a hybrid, or maybe the spin rate numbers are telling him it's somewhere in between. As long as he can locate it to glove side, running away from righties and bore it in on lefties, I don't care what it is. Throw it and get people out. As far as the Dollander compares, I saw that. Similar release, similar tempo throughout the delivery. The bigger breaking ball, the sharpness of that gave you some Dollander vibes. So I saw everything that we heard about from Mac in terms of ceiling as well. I thought he and Teagan, the first 2 games as a tandem, were like, thanks for coming, Nicholls. Sorry. Like, this is who we have. This is who we ran out here. Like, I hate it for you.
What was your and I'll add before we move on to Blanco, Dollander. I'm already calling him Dollander. Mac kind of walks around the mound like Teagan does. Like those two guys have a bunch of energy, swag, confidence that they're pitching with, a lot of grit to them that I thought was on display this weekend. Of course, we'll see what they do in SEC play. I expect both to pitch very well. Obviously, they should overpower Nicholls, but still great signs to start the year. I thought both were terrific. And Blanco, you and I were texting. He got hit a little bit more, but it was more of Nicholls just finding holes, just kind of poking their bat out there and finding a hole through the infield. I mean, Matt gave up the biggest hit of the weekend on the opposite field home run, and Josh Elander, at least publicly, said that he was fine with the pitch. It was 2-0, and he thought he threw a competitive fastball. The other guy just took it the other way, and you tip your hat. And I do think it was the 3-hole hitter, wasn't it? And a pretty big old boy. So Blanco, maybe the box score doesn't look as good as the others, but I thought pitched well, and Nicholls was just able to find some holes against him.
I think he still racked up a decent amount of strikeouts. But like you said, he had 9.
5 hits, 2 walks, 9 Ks.
Yeah. The one inning where they had 2 hits, it was like one was dumped into left field, and then there was an infield hit that it was like their fast guy. I mean, it was a 3-hopper to Newstrom, and he caught it on the run and threw it clean play. The guy just beat it out. So some of that for Blanco. It's also like game 3, and they hadn't done anything. So it's like you're going to get whatever best punch they can muster together. I thought Blanco looked good. I know I'm biased towards him, but he's wearing number 11 and he's left-handed. And you saw what you've seen from him at Virginia, which was he could start you off with a breaking ball for a strike. The fastball is good enough. He's going to be more of the calming presence on the mound. There's some fire in there too. But anytime there's that with anybody, I just say, look, if you can do it against Nicholls, do it when you get punched in the mouth yourself. You know what I mean? Just be that. Don't change. Like Liam Doyle, for as crazy as he was, it didn't matter if he was getting hit like he got hit at Arkansas. He was still Liam Doyle. And it's like, you know what? You can live with that. So for all of them, just keep that in mind, not to be the Debbie Downer, but it's like, hey, it's easy to have swagger walking around when you're just flat out better than the other team. But Blanco really good. I think he had the least to gain from this weekend. Just trying to get into the season, make sure he's ready to go, and get deeper into the game as they get further into it, which all of them got to their pitch count. All of them got relatively deep given their pitch count, which was good. I think they were all efficient. And I expect Blanco to be, the most efficient more often than not, because that's just kind of who he is as an arm. You're not going to see 9 strikeouts from him every time out there. But you are going to see some because he's got good stuff and he's very pinpoint accurate. So it's going to be high strikeout to walk ratio for him, but maybe not as many, strikeout count. But it should be a very low walk count, maybe a couple more hits. But ultimately, I expect a low ERA, a low whip, and a lot of wins from number 11 in Cream.
I thought the guys that pitched out of the bullpen were equally as impressive, given the difference in expectations. I feel like we all felt that to some extent Teagan, Landon, Blanco were all going to pitch the way that they did, but didn't really know what to expect from Cameron Appenzeller. Did not know what to expect from Nick Abraham going into his second season. Braden Krenzel, he had a rough offseason. He needed to pitch against somebody else. And I asked Elander that after the weekend on Saturday. I was like, how nice was it just for Krenzel to pitch against somebody else, because he had gotten hit around in the fall, gotten hit around in the preseason. Wasn't really the same guy after he had mono last year. He pitched really well at Alabama, and I feel like that it was after that when he got the mono, became ill, and then just wasn't the same guy that we saw in the first half as we did in the second half. But he looked like the guy that we saw at the beginning of his freshman season over the weekend. Looked really good, and Elander mentioned that he sat down with Krenzel and they had a good conversation about, hey, just relax and you've got great stuff. You're going to be fine. But Krenzel looked good. Abraham looked good. That was stock up on those guys. I mean, if Abraham and Krenzel and more Abraham than Krenzel, because we've seen more Krenzel. Abraham, although he was highly thought of coming out of high school, didn't really see him a ton as a true freshman. I mean, if those two guys are going to be true, legitimate, reliable relievers, that changes the outlook of the bullpen in I think a significant way. Bo Rudy looked good. Appenzeller showed why he was highly touted and why he could have signed for millions in the draft if he wanted to. Brady Frederick did get hit around a little bit, but those other 4 guys, Rudy, Appenzeller, Abraham, Krenzel, I was very impressed by those guys because I didn't really know what to expect.
Yeah, no worries with Frederick. That's not the best matchup for him. He's going to be more effective against the better the opponent, in my opinion. Just with his slot, I think the better team you play, the more effective Frederick is, and that's just, maybe it's a old baseball myth in my opinion, but is what it is. Abraham, we did see early. We were surprised to see him early as a freshman. We were like, okay, they obviously seem high on this kid, and he got hit around like from the jump. I think his first outing was like back to back to back hits last year, if I remember correctly. And it was like, God, like it looks pretty good and it's a big frame and he's throwing strikes. He's just getting hit. So good to see him out there. Obviously, earn an opportunity to be involved early. He was the first guy out of the pen that we saw, which wouldn't have been my guess.
Elanders told John Wilkerson on one of his pregame interviews that they wanted to go to Appenzeller first on Friday, but because of how the game played out with Teagan on the mound,
score dictates.
It dictated, sure. And then Abraham looked good, so just kind of rode Abraham.
For sure, and he looked really good. So definitely a story to watch there. Krenzel, the only thing I'll say about him is I've said this plenty. Preseason, fall, couldn't care less. Doesn't matter. Camden Sewell, Sean Hunley, Blade Tidwell had his days. Chad Dallas. Oh, they had some massacres in the fall. Kirby. Oh my gosh, I've seen Kirby get hammered in the fall. And I'm not even talking about myself. I took it on the chin more than anybody, or just as much as anybody in the fall and preseason. So, I say that to say, yes, it's good to face a different uniform, but you can throw all of whatever happened as far as him getting hit out the window because the kid's a gamer. We saw that last year, and his stuff will play. So good that they, gave him an opportunity just to get involved early there in game 3. So he'll be involved. And then Appenzeller was my biggest takeaway, right? I hadn't seen him before, so just wanted to see him. But as far as the newcomers, like him being a freshman, it's just fun to see their first outing because you get to see, with the real jersey on, another team in the dugout. It's like, all right, what do these guys look like? And he looked every bit the part. So we didn't even see Arvidsson this weekend. I feel good about the bullpen as it stands right now. But like I said, nobody had a tough situation. But obviously he went in there and threw strikes and was effective and put people away quickly. Wasn't really wasting. There weren't a ton of foul balls. Like it wasn't 2-2, 3-2 strikeouts. Like it was pretty. Okay, here's Appenzeller, 1, 2, 3, back in the dugout. Like it was very, very good work, which is not easy to do, especially when you see around the country. Like I said, it's opening weekend, so you see a lot of freshmen making their first college appearance, and that can go one of a ton of different ways. I don't care what the score is. So good on him. He'll certainly be involved.
2 more pitching questions, and then we're going to take a second quick timeout and come back and wrap up with the offense. Do you think Bo Rudy, the way he was used on Saturday, I agree with you that nobody came in a tough situation, but it was a 4-run game when Appenzeller and Rudy were pitching in game 2 because the offense outside of Blaine Brown in game 2 couldn't get a whole lot going. It was 5-1. Bo Rudy comes in the 9th. Do you think that is a sign of him? I don't think Josh has definitively decided in his mind that, hey, I'm going to have a defined closer, but kind of like what we talked about on our pitching preview, if there is going to be a guy, it's going to be Bo Rudy because he's done it in the past. That's how they kind of used him in the preseason. Do you think the way that they did use him in a 4-run game in game 2, pitching the 9th inning, does that make you feel more or less that he might be the closer of this team?
More. Sure. Yeah, could absolutely be. I think with it being a 4-run game, you're probably thinking, okay, game 2 may not be as close. So this is as close to a closing opportunity as we're going to get him this weekend. So let's give it to him. So yeah, it makes me feel more confident that he is the guy they initially want to serve in that role. And it'll always come down to, okay, is whoever's out there right now rolling? If they are, they're probably just going to ride it out. And B, is he available for the 9th? And if he is, then run him out there. So he could be your closer, even if you don't have a defined one where it's like, okay, this is the hard and fast rule. If it's the 9th, I don't care if whoever's in front of him has thrown 3 scoreless, like Rudy's coming in. Which is kind of a funny name for a closer coming out of the bullpen. It's like Rudy. Like you don't want to. Kind of an odd chant, It's like
I don't know that could be kind of. Did we just give Tennessee baseball another idea?
I just don't want it to be like a Make-A-Wish vibe. You know what I mean?
No, that's true. So. Touche. I've got a comparison for Bo Rudy that I just thought of off the top of my head.
Hit it.
David Bednar, short, stocky. Phil just going to throw fastball.
Yeah. Closer for the Pirates. Had a really good year. What?
Got traded to my Yankees. That's why that one's fresh on my mind is because I watched him the second half.
Ago, I believe.
Yeah. And then he kind of hit a rough patch last year with the Pirates first half of the year last year. Kind of found it a little bit better the second half after he got dealt to the Yankees, but kind of David Bednar-ish. And again, that's because I watched the Yankees and see him. But I don't know why that thought popped into my head, but it did. My other pitching question for you, and I know it's 3 games. It's easy to call pitches against Nicholls, especially when you've got Landon Mack and Tegan Kuhn's throwing just their fastball. That's all you need, really. Did you see any difference in the pitch calling? Did you see any difference in how they were approaching pitching or pitching 2 hitters?
No, nothing that stood out. And if
Yeah.
there is, it's going to be dependent on the guy. Like you said, Rudy's going to be all fastballs. It's like, well, Frank loves sliders. It's like, well, if he was coaching Rudy, who has an alien fastball, he would throw all fastballs, right? So, I mean, Liam Doyle was all fastballs until he wasn't last year, until he, had to not be last year. So, no, I didn't see anything glaring in terms of pitch calling. I did see a runner get picked off, and there weren't a lot of runners, but the ones that were on, I didn't see stolen bases. And I thought Stone back there looked really good defensively, which was another takeaway, like really, really good back there. And then obviously the pickoff is nice to get. I think it was Mac in game 2 had the pickoff.
He did. Tennessee also got picked off 3 times. Base running.
And I don't want to pump the narrative that like we never picked anybody off when Frank was the pitching. We picked over all the time under Frank. Like that was one of Frank's main things. And I'll give away a little baseball secret here. If you've got a son or a friend, or you're an aspiring travel ball or high school coach or whatever, if you ever find yourself coaching a team or calling pitches, the statistics show that for every pickoff move you do, the hitter's average in that count drops a handful of points. So if you ever noticed when Frank was calling pitches and you had a big slug on first base, 0 chance he's running, but you had a big thumper, let's say it's Jack Caglione in the box, and let's say it was Luke Heyman on first base, who doesn't have a stolen base in his career. Maybe he does. If he does, I'm forgetting it. You would still pick off like 3 times in a row. And it's like, why? Well, because Jack Caglione's having to stand there waiting on a pitch, right? And the longer you stand there, it's like, gosh, I want to hit. And it's like, gosh, why is he picking off? It's frustrating as a hitter. And I don't have the exact statistic in front of me, but he would kind of make a joke about it. Like, you throw over 3 or 4 times, and you can do that in college. You can't do that in the pros now. But you just kind of almost slow the game down through pickoff moves. And Frank would say, I'd just lower in the batting average. And it's true. The statistics back it up. And I hate to sidetrack, but I don't want people to think like, oh, they picked off one guy and now all of a sudden the whole philosophy has been fixed with the running game. Like, no. It comes down to the guy. Landon Mack obviously has quick feet. They picked off guys before. We won't notice or know until we have at least a month or 2 body of work, and you play a team like Kentucky or Vanderbilt, how you handle the run game, stuff like that. But I did notice it. I did want to point it out. But as far as pitch calling goes, I didn't see anything. But I wasn't really paying attention.
I do think we know Frank loved a cutter. Not to say that this staff does not love a cutter, but I do think the other secondary pitches, breaking balls are going to be just as emphasized as maybe the cutter was. I feel like we always heard a lot of talk about cutters. Now we're hearing a lot of talk about my changeup, my curveball, my slider. A lot more variance. I feel maybe that's just me overreacting to one weekend.
Yeah, I think the cutter thing was from that group of pitchers those 2 years. The last few, yeah.
You feel it was more personnel, not philosophy.
Yeah, that was like Franklin was always working on the cutter. Snead had a cutter. Like that stemmed from them.
Fair enough.
Yeah. The thing that improved for me the most under Frank was slider. Like cutter was never even an option, or I had never even heard him say it. I never wanted to throw one, couldn't throw one. Just it's kind of a thing where like you either can or you can't. Some guys can, some guys can't. But I came in, changeup was my best pitch. We threw that a ton, worked on it, yada yada. But my slider really improved under Frank. And I'm sure other guys would say the same thing.
A lot of sliders improved as well. I did not mean to insinuate that Frank.
No, you're good. But what could be the difference
with the cutter and only the cutter?
Yeah, what could be different is the more the more 12-6 style curveball. If we see, guys having two different ones, I don't know. We really shouldn't compare. Like
It's early.
it's so dependent on the individual, like
Yeah.
who the
Yeah.
pitcher is, right? You know what I
Right.
mean? So
And it's 3 games
and it's 3 games, yeah,
against Nicholls.
against Nicholls. But we're
So
still gonna overreact because that's what
we
we
are
do.
yes, and we're gonna overreact to the hitting as well. We talked about the law firm Henry and Brown, but we do have some stocks that are down offensively that we need to discuss on the other side. It's not all sunshine and rainbows. There's a little rain sprinkled in, and we're gonna talk about those raindrops on the other side of this quick timeout. Welcome back into the Diamond Vols podcast on GoVols247.com. I am Ben McKee, and I'm joined by Will Heflin, wrapping up our opening weekend reaction pod to Tennessee's sweep of Nicholls to begin the Josh Elander era. Still several more topics, quite frankly, that I want to discuss, and we will try to be efficient and run through these. Before we talk about some of maybe I don't know the right wording, concerns or maybe who had a disappointing weekend. A couple of more positives that I do want to mention. Very impressed by the defense. The base running was not great because you got picked off 3 times. And I think they'll get cleaned up. I do. I think Josh Elander will emphasize that. You had a young guy or 2 in the mix. They are going to be aggressive, as Josh pointed out, because they are aggressive on the bases. They're going to get got at times. I also thought, like on the flip side of being picked off, I'm curious your thought on this, Will. I thought there were instances in which Josh held a runner at third that he would not have in the past. I did not think, maybe it was the opponent, maybe that's what it was, but I did not think that Josh was as aggressive as he typically is sending runners home. It felt like a guarantee every time a runner had the chance to to go home, Josh would send him and make the defense make a throw. It felt like he held them up at third more than he has in the past. Maybe that's just a coincidence with it being one weekend against the inferior opponent. But defense was really impressed by the defense, and then I did want to highlight Stone Lawless. You mentioned his defense. I thought Stone looked terrific this weekend, behind the dish as a defender, and then at the plate with the bat in his hand. Stock up on Stone Lawless. He looks like a true SEC baseball player. Not that he hasn't in the past, but he was living off potential in the past, and I think that potential has arrived. It needs to translate, but I think Stone can play himself into being one of the better SEC catchers. I think we talked about that on our last podcast. I really do think that Stone can be one of the better all-around catchers in this league, and that would be great for Tennessee because Stone's one of the leaders on this baseball team as well.
Yeah, he received it really well. Thought he controlled the game really well, and just looked good back there. And that's kind of hard to explain, but it just felt good. I think we knew on paper this team had the potential to be really good defensively. With your options in the infield, and the outfield wasn't really tested like at all, but there were a lot of tough plays on the infield with some choppers or some ground balls up the middle that guys had to get rid of, and the infield looked really, 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 really solid for the most part. And again, they weren't tested in any tough situations where you got to turn a double play with a guy on third and 1 out or something like that. But they made all the plays in front of them, and I thought they looked really good. So defense for sure, stock up. The other 2 stock ups, I'll say, on the hitter / defense side are 2 guys that hit a home run in their very first at bat. So your stock can only go up when that's your first result as a volunteer, and that's Myatt from Walter State and Bates from San Diego State. Bates was somebody, when we got him, we were like, he will be in the mix. Thought he may end up being the starting second baseman. In our preseason previews, we didn't talk about him at all. Like, not once did his name get mentioned. And we're talking about the Mountain West Player of the Year, which as a freshman of the year 2 years ago, which is a good baseball conference. I mean, you're talking some Arizona, California. Like there's some baseball out there, even if it's not Power 4, a conference that's really good at basketball, by the way. Didn't talk about either one of them really. Talked about Myatt a little bit in the DH potential, but I thought Myatt looked great. We'll see how they do as they get more at bats and face better competition. But both their stock up, stock down for me. Levi, I was very disappointed in that there were still chases at the top of the zone and like pitches early in the count that as talented as a hitter as he is, those balls have to be hammered and he's fouling them straight back or out of play. It looks like he's working uphill still. And like that's the trend in baseball. Like a lot of guys have that upward path. You see a lot of balls get elevated.
Launch angle.
Yeah, launch angle and all that, but there's still some structure in the hands, and he just looks straight uphill and kind of loses path. Not to act like I could be his damn hitting coach or hit better. I'm just saying the kid is in the 3-hole. So maybe he was just trying to do too much this weekend and show everybody how much he had improved in his sophomore year. So we'll hold judgment for now, but kind of discouraging to see the weekend that he had. He did hit the homer, which was a good swing, hit it really, really hard, squared it up completely. Like it wasn't a pop-up, it was a missile. But we'll see. You
Squared
just
a couple of others up right at guys.
Yeah, need to see more contact overall, especially in that environment. But we'll see. We'll see. Maybe Levi's kind of like Jordan Beck, and it just doesn't really matter who he's playing. Like he is who he is. He's going to hit homers and he's going to strike out some, but he's going to be a beast. That's a first rounder who is now a big leaguer, so that wouldn't be a bad guy to follow. Ariel, I think a lot of you mentioned this to me. He's the guy or the MVP, if you will, most talked about. A lot of guys said he was the toughest out in the fall, had a great preseason leading up, basically forced his way onto the field. It's like, you don't have a choice. I have to get an opportunity. Didn't hit great. The hardest ball he hit went foul, unfortunately. Came up with a couple guys on in that game too, multiple times, and had some weak pop-ups or, ended the inning. Just not ideal for a guy who's facing questions coming into the year. It's like, can he hit? And then he doesn't in that spot. And I'm going to put him in the same boat as Levi. Like, it's the first weekend. Don't overreact. But stock is down. Newstrom, Jay, Manny, those three, nothing really to write home about. Their stock kind of the same to me. I don't know if you're different on any of those three. It's okay if you are. I know Newstrom was my breakout pick. But if you remember correctly, Christian Moore was like 8th or 9th on the team to hit his first home run and then hit like 35. So you don't have to be first to I think it was like week 3 or maybe the second midweek of the year. SEMO got his first one and Billy was already at like 8 by that point, and then SEMO beat him by like 15. So don't worry about
it. Just in terms of what we do for a living, generating content, like if we're using those buzzwords, stock up, stock down, I do think Jay Abernathy, Chris Newstrom fall into that category. Tennessee sophomore hitters, really outside of Manny Marin, because Manny's dealing with the hand injury after getting hit by a pitch in their scrimmages the final weekend of the preseason. He plays in the opener, doesn't play in the doubleheader. I think he could have played if they really wanted to press the issue, but it's cold, right? Games 2 and 3 against Nicholls, you don't need to force the issue. X-rays were negative, Josh Elander said in his post-game press conference. So Manny looked fine on Friday. I still think he's your starting shortstop. But outside of Manny, I was hoping for a little bit more from the sophomore hitters that we talked about that need to live up to their potential in order for Tennessee's offense to be what it needs to be. Like we can talk Henry Ford, we can talk Blaine Brown. They're going to carry the offense. You mentioned earlier in the podcast when we were talking about the law firm Henry and Brown that eventually teams stop pitching to SEMO. And if this Tennessee team wants to prevent that, Levi Clark has to be Levi Clark. Levi Clark has to protect Henry and Blaine. in that 3-hole if that is going to continue to be the order. And I mean that kind of has to be the order because I don't know who, at least looking at it on paper on February 15th, like who else has the type of potential to be a true 3-hole hitter in this league other than Levi? I mean, right now I don't think there's an obvious answer. I mean, your second best option might be Manny Marin, and like I don't think Manny's ready to be a bona fide 3-hole hitter in this league. I think Levi, to what you said, and I didn't think he had a bad weekend, but the chases were concerning. And something to monitor. It's one weekend. Maybe he was geared up trying to do too much, and he still was able to barrel a couple of baseballs. I compare him to Jordan Beck because Jordan struggled. Maybe the reason was different, but the outcome to me is the same. Jordan Beck chased a lot of pitches as a freshman and a sophomore. He looked confused at the plate. I don't know if it was plate vision, plate discipline, approach. I don't know why he struck out, but he chased a lot. And Levi also chases a lot. We saw Levi chase a lot last year. First weekend of the season, Levi chased a lot as well. He also barreled up a lot of baseballs to your point. So there were, I don't know if they're red flags. Maybe they're yellow flags. Would that be the alternate color? Kind of like a mild concern or something to monitor. So I agree with you with Levi, but even like Newstrom and Jay, I was expecting a little bit more punch, a little more pizzazz. Jay had he did nearly hit a home run, and the opener ran one into the deep right center gap. That was a nice swing. And then he comes back and has the double. I just think he can be so much more dynamic for this team. And I just have high expectations for him, just like you have high expectations for Newstrom, and I do too. I love both of those guys. I think they're going to be key players for Tennessee, but expected a little bit more out of them in the opening weekend. So do I actually think that their stock is down? No, but just playing the game that we play in the media, if we were listing who we were impressed by and maybe who we were a bit underwhelmed by or expected more from, I do think those sophomore hitters outside of Manny would fall into that department.
Agreed. Well put.
Ariel was, I don't think he had, some are saying, hey, just bench him completely. I don't think it was that bad. I think he had a really bad day on Saturday, and unfortunately, that bad day consisted of a doubleheader. So it kind of compounded the issue because he had a good game on Friday night. A couple of hits, hit a double, drove in a couple of runs. But then he comes back and he leaves 11 stranded on base in both games combined on Saturday. And speaking of chasing, he was chasing a lot and looked lost and looked like he was trying to push the issue and trying to win a starting job in the lineup within that doubleheader. Just trying to do too much is what it looked like. But here's my thing with Ariel as well, even though it was more of a mixed bag than I think people are giving him credit for, because I thought he did play well on Friday. Even though he had the couple of hits, I don't know what the numbers would say, so maybe I shouldn't say this, but I'm going to do it anyways because I'm a dummy. The eye test, the exit velo is just not there for me. Like everybody talks about the Appy League and what he's done there the last 2 summers. He's got this high batting average, but then you see the clips of what he does in the Appy League, and they're singles, kind of dinking and dunking to the left side, to the right side. Like where's the power coming from? And not that he needs to go hit 10 home runs. That's not what I'm saying at all. I guess my point in me mentioning the concern with the exit velo, at least from the eye test, is I don't think that translates to SEC play. I don't think that translates against better hitting. I think you can get away with that against inferior opponents, lesser competition, but against the best of the best, I don't think that's going to lead to results.
Yeah. Let's give him time. I mean,
I agree.
I think one of the biggest unfair things to him in years past is that he wasn't out there every day. He wasn't getting consistent at bats, and then he would get thrown in there and look bad, and he would get put in the ninth and make a good play on defense. And he's not tall, and like you said, he doesn't have Blaine Brown level exit velo, and so he got labeled, right? And sounds like he spent the whole fall and preseason trying to get rid of that label, and he's all juiced up and ready to go. So you almost could have predicted it. It's like he's probably not going to have the best weekend because he really, really wants to show like who he is, right? And how how much he's improved, or I can hit, right? So give him time. And I haven't been the one, I haven't been as big a supporter by any means of wanting him to be out there. But he did look really good defensively. And not just the superstar plays that he's made in the past. Like his boo-boos on defense have been the easy plays, and he made the easy plays. So that's what you need to see out of Ariel. And let's let him have more than one doubleheader before we pass judgment. And same for all of them, good or bad, right? Like Tyler Myatt, the only thing we've seen from that guy is barrels. I think he's hitting 1,000. I think his one out he made was a sac fly, so it doesn't even count as an out unless he got another at bat. I think he got pinch hit for or pulled late in game 3. Or maybe I missed it, but as good of a weekend as you had, as bad of a weekend as you had. Because I mean, Blaine Brown chasing pitches too, right? But he hit 3 balls over the wall, so that's all we talk about, right? So for Ariel, I think the thing that hurts him the most is, like you said, 11 runners left on base. If those were just run of the mill at bats with nobody on, people forget about him in an inning, much less a day later when we're talking about it. But people forget the double on Friday immediately, right? Because the game was in hand, yada, yada. So we put him down. We're going to talk him up, give him some time, give him all time, good, bad, or in between. But like you said, something to monitor. You got to have a scorecard or a grade. Is it grade card?
Sure.
Report card. That's what you got in school, right? Report card.
Yes.
So we'll see, man. I really wish the Arlington was this weekend, but I didn't make the schedule and they didn't ask me. So
I'm glad it's next weekend so we can see Brandon Arvidsson against the good opponents.
That's a good point.
I mean, he may pitch this weekend. I don't know. It sounds like he's close. Sounds like he looks good in his bullpens.
I don't need to see Brandon Arvidsson. I know what he is. I know what he's about. I know what he stands for.
I do too, but there's
and
still...
I know he's not hittable, so I don't need to see anything.
Yes, but he needs to prove that he can do it consistently.
Well, how do you do that? I mean,
by being available.
The last 2 weekends of SEC play, Hoover, which was his best outing, the regional, he was phenomenal, and he fought like hell in Baum Stadium when that team was just a buzzsaw at the time.
Yep.
I mean, that's 4 weeks? Like, is that not consistent enough for you?
That is very much consistent enough, but he needs to carry that momentum into this season, because if he had done that all year last year, or even all throughout SEC play, he would not be back on this year's roster. He would have gotten drafted very high had he been able to do it longer than just a month stretch of last season. I love Arvidsson. I'm not going to allow you to turn this around.
I thought he turned down some money wanting to be a first rounder. I thought he was a day 2 guy.
I'm not under the impression he turned down first round money, but
no, I'm not saying he turned down first round. I'm saying he turned down a day 2 draft pick and that type of money to come back and try to pitch his way into the first round to add a couple zeros to that.
Yeah, he did.
I mean, for a reliever to be drafted,
my point is,
I'm just arguing with him because I'm defending my guy.
You don't have to defend Brandon Arvidsson to me. I love Brandon Arvidsson. I'm the one that just said I can't wait to watch him pitch against the big boy. I don't want to. I love him so much. I don't want to watch him pitch again. I don't even know who they play this weekend. Kent State, is that who they play? Who do they play this weekend?
I think it's Kent State.
It is Kent State. They play UNC Asheville Tuesday night. Kent State next weekend. I don't.
For UNC Asheville, they just continue to put Tennessee on their schedule, come make that same trip every year, and it's just always awful.
Yeah.
Why do they do that to themselves?
I don't know. I love Brandon Arvidsson. I'm not going to allow you to act like I'm disrespecting him. If
you do that to me,
if he had pitched that, you disrespect me all the time too. No, I'm kidding.
No, you act like you act like I hate people that I don't hate.
I know. I'm just annoying. Is what I am.
No, you're
But
just a good wrench.
I love Harvey. If he would have done it for more than 4 appearances last year, though, he would have gotten the first round money he was looking for, and would not be here.
That was not 4 appearances. That was like 6, and it was like dang near 30 innings, and he had some good appearances.
I was 4 weekends is what I meant.
Before the 4-week stretch.
He did for sure. I love me some Brendan Arvidsson.
Do you not remember the buzz that he got before the draft? We were shocked when he did not go in the top 5 rounds.
For sure. I was shocked that he decided to return.
Somebody told him, "You're a first-round arm. Why don't you go back and show that and sign for a couple mil instead of a couple 100,000?" So that's what he's coming back to do.
Yes, I agree. Only point.
Team BA 27. What is he? Is he 27? 26?
This year.
Yeah. Team BA 26. How about that?
I have to stop and think about all of them. I was even second guessing myself earlier when I was talking about Blaine Brown being 2027 because it's hard to envision that guy being at Tennessee for 2 years.
I know he's not draft eligible.
And Mack's not draft eligible. Levi Clark's not draft eligible. There's another one I'm forgetting that's kind of damning as well. But
let me ask you this, Ben, since you put me on the spot. Are you buying Reese Chapman in right field? Or are you like, great, that's cool, do it in SEC play?
First, I'm glad you brought Reese Chapman up because I was going to give him an attaboy before we get out of here. Good debut for him. Now, when you ask me that question in terms of buying Reese Chapman, like routine, everyday starting outfielder in the SEC or like true 4-hole hitter in this league, like what am I buying? We know
the result that we got on Friday and Saturday this week is much more of the Blaine Brown, Henry Ford category than it is.
Hit for a higher average this weekend than Blaine Brown and Henry Ford.
Yeah. I mean, Reese Chapman was arguably, he didn't have the 3 homers, but he did the most damage.
Yeah.
Are you buying it?
In 2 strike counts?
Because we're talking about a guy that went like 0 for 30 in June last year.
Right. I hate this conversation because I love Reese Chapman. I love him as a person. I think he's a great young man. He's been awesome to cover the last couple of years, but I know he has his doubters, which is why I hate this conversation. I say yes, I'm buying it, but obviously, if you could not tell with my hesitation, there is a little buyers beware. I guess would that be the right phrase? Like I'm buying it, but I'm a little weary. Got to prove it to me in SEC play. Like I've seen Reese do this, which is why I have a little buyers beware. I've seen Reese hit well against non-conference teams. I need to see him do it against SEC teams. So, like that's it. Great weekend. Enjoyed watching him this weekend. Happy for him. He made the decision. Different situation, but decided to come back to Tennessee. Could have transferred, gone elsewhere. Decided to come back for Tennessee. I think he is. I think if you were to rank all 16 SEC starting right fielders, I think Reese would be in the top half of that, and I think that's pretty good. So sure, I'm buying Reese Chapman, but I do need him to prove it to me against SEC competition and not have that stretch that he and Bargo are kind of known for going through. Dalton Bargo, shout out Dalton Bargo, had a great opening weekend at NC State.
Everybody loves Dalton Bargo, even though he struggled. Great kid, had some big moments.
Are you buying Chapman?
No.
All right.
No. Sorry. Love you, buddy.
Do you think he'll be one of – you don't think he'll be a top half of the SEC right fielder?
Defensively, he's top
3.
Top tier. Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't seen him
right
all
fielder.
this year. I don't know
everything that you get. Do you think he's a top 8 right fielder in the SEC? I find it hard to believe that there's more than 8 guys that are better in right field than Reese Chapman.
I couldn't even name you 3 others this year, to be honest with you. So I can't answer that yet. But he was not last year, no. So Tennessee needs him to be a leader, and I mean that performance, not just in the dugout. They need him to lead and be an anchor in the lineup, because part of that Brown Ford protection will fall on him. So whatever that middle of the order ends up being, he's probably going to be a part of it, and they just need him to be good. So good start, but no, I'm not going to buy anything until I see it in SC play. And I don't know that that's fair of me, because here I am saying, well, we saw flashes from Arvidsson, so I don't need to see consistency from him, but I do need to see consistency from Reese. But when it looks bad for Reese, it looks really, really bad. And I'm not going to harp on it. I'm just saying buyers beware, like you said. And we'll come back to this discussion, but just calling balls and strikes. And you've been much more. The only reason I'm okay saying this is you have been, if anybody hasn't seen your Twitter lately, it is phenomenal, because new Ben McKee does not give as many whats. He is calling it like he sees it. And I'm just telling you, from what I've heard, the people love it. That's all I'm going to say. Rumors on the street is that Ben McKee Twitter has been unbelievable the last 2 months in the best way possible. So,
well, I am so
taken a little spicy.
I'm taken aback by this and caught off guard. I
this wasn't on the script, was it? Sorry.
No, like, are my tweets different? I feel like, if anything, I'm tweeting less of my opinion as I get older.
Nah, just some of the
I had a spicy
humor, straightforward comments. I'm talking most specifically basketball and some of the portal stuff with football. But just, you ain't been afraid to tell people they're wrong, or say you don't like something that you saw from a coach. And I don't know, the people love it. That's all I'm going to say.
The only thing I can think of is I did have a spicy Kim Caldwell tweet last
You did. That was
week.
one of them. But there were some other ones. I remember a week where I got like 4 in a row, and the comment.
Who are you talking to about this? This is what I want to know. Somebody brought this to your attention. I want to know who it was.
Ben, you have like 40,000 followers on X. It could be any one of them.
Yeah, but it's somebody that I would know.
3.
It would be one of your former teammates.
No, certainly not.
Interesting.
Baseball guys, but didn't play at Tennessee.
Interesting. This is I'm caught off guard by this.
Vol fans, I'm gonna have to send you some of the tweets, and I'll read them off on the preview pod for Kent State, because I know we'll need some content in that. We'll read through some of Ben's spiciest tweets in the last 2 months, because there have been some good ones.
All right, I was not aware of this. I knew my Kim Caldwell one was spicy. I had to delete that one. I made the decision to delete that one because
you shouldn't have. It was fair.
Well, yes, but I was also incorrect. I insinuated that it was Kim Caldwell's decision to not allow the players to speak post game, and that was not Kim Caldwell's decision. That was somebody else's decision. So because I was wrong about that insinuation, that's why I deleted the tweet. Not because I felt differently about my opinion about the game. The performance and the lack of effort was abysmal. We could go on and on about the Lady Vols, but we're not going to do that, because I have one more topic. We've gone very long here. I feel like it's been a good podcast, though. Good thoughts, good conversations.
First weekend we had to go a little long,
for sure. But I like to have a discussion about all the hot topics that are going on amongst Tennessee baseball fans. And the one that we have not talked about, we've talked about this player, but we have not talked about the ongoing conversation. It might have overtaken the Ariel Antigua conversation this weekend, that Tyler Myatt needs to be in the starting lineup. Where are you with that? I know you mentioned earlier, we both think he looked great this weekend, obviously. That's not the conversation. But one weekend, limited, just a couple of opportunities, small sample size, kind of how we've talked about. Where are you at with wanting to see more Tyler Myatt in the lineup? Because I want to see more Tyler Myatt in the lineup, but I don't know necessarily yet where that happens, because you would be putting his bat in the lineup, which is a great thing, but defensively, I don't know that it would make a ton of sense defensively with how he would need to go in there. I think the easiest path to get him in the lineup is at DH, and I would love to see that. I would absolutely love to see him get 3-4 at bats every single game until he proves that he doesn't deserve that. I don't think that he would. I think he's going to be a really fun bat for Tennessee fans to watch this season. It will be interesting once Blake Grimmer becomes available and they battle it out for that DH spot. And we also see what happens with Blaine Brown in left field with his defense, with his ability to also pitch. How do they use him in the DH role? But where are you at with Tyler Myatt needing to be in the starting lineup after his debut as a Tennessee Volunteer this weekend?
Yeah, I can't say I'm not buying Reese and then get on here and say I am buying Myatt, right? Because we haven't seen enough from him. And I know your thing was because you had reservations with him coming in, just immediately saying, okay, he's got to be in the lineup because he was the dang JUCO Player of the Year and hit, just video game numbers. And I think I was just biased because he's coming from Walter State and he's from, Granger County, or I think he's from Washburn or something like that. Rutledge. I think he's from Rutledge. Anyways, the swing looks good, and I think he should certainly be one of your DH options with a chance to win the job. But I think Grimmer's got to have that opportunity too. So they're going to have to mix and match and let it be a battle. So for Myatt, yes, but buy with caution for sure. But you got to say, I was kind of pushing that he definitely needs to be in the mix preseason.
We did not talk about him enough in terms of being in the mix. Not intentionally, just by accident.
I mean, I did. I was bringing him up every time.
I don't feel like we talked about him a ton. I think we certainly mentioned him.
But have this stigma that JUCO players don't translate on the
I have reservations about every JUCO bat until they prove me otherwise.
Exactly. And so this weekend doesn't absolve those reservations for you, and it shouldn't.
No, but it makes you feel a lot better.
It's a step in the right direction for sure.
I liked what I
saw. The ball off the top of the wall the other way was a perfect swing. I don't care if it's batting practice. That's a perfect swing. So it's there. I mean, the guy's a hitter, right? His numbers everywhere he's went. For me, the biggest comfort that I got from it was he went to the Cape and raked. I'm like, okay, okay.
Right.
Nobody that's not a good hitter goes to the Cape and rakes.
Correct.
So, yeah, he's gotta get as many at bats as you can get him. That's the only way to put it, really.
Yeah. No, look, I'm with you. Like I absolutely have my reservations about every junior college bat. It was not a Tyler Myatt thing. It was a junior college bat thing, because we have seen JUCO bats not translate to Tennessee the last couple of years, and there are examples of them also translating. It was not a Tyler Myatt thing, but I absolutely think that he should be a fringe everyday starter. I do believe that. I guess why I'm hesitating is because I do believe he should be an everyday starter because of the potential in the bat. I just don't know where he fits in, because
DH.
But then what about Blaine and Grimmer? I mean, right now it's easy because Grimmer's not available, but I would expect Grimmer's back within the next couple of games. Like, is there just going to be a competition between Myatt and Grimmer at the DH spot?
There's a path to where they both have to be in the lineup every day.
Let me throw this thought at you. Grimmer's a much better I don't know about much better. I may be putting too much sauce on it. Grimmer's a better defender than Blaine Brown. Blaine Brown's defense is a big question mark out in left field. So, like, how does that affect your thoughts about, hey, Myatt Grimmer battle it out for DH, but what if Brown needs to be the DH because he's a defensive liability? And the pitching aspect of it. So then, obviously, Brown's going to be in the lineup in left field or at DH.
Yeah, then if Myatt and Grimmer both force their way onto the field, it's going to have to be in a different outfield spot or a different corner infield spot. And third base ain't going anywhere.
Right field's not going anywhere defensively.
Yeah, Ben, give me the best 9 hitters, and you figure out the defense.
We'll see what Myatt is defensively. I don't want to speak because I don't know one way or the other. But I don't believe he's one of their better defensive options as of today. Or maybe that's not even the correct way to put it. The better way is to say that I think Henry Ford is very good defensively. I think Reese Chapman is very good defensively. Like, it would be hard for any of those guys to supersede them. Like, Blake Grimmer's not even going to play third base or right field over them. Maybe first base. I will see what Levi looks like at first base defensively. Maybe that's where it comes from. But then even if you had to pull Levi because of his defense, then where's Levi going in the lineup?
Yeah, I'm just saying you're not going to leave Reese in right field because of his defense. Right field is a hitting position.
Yes, it absolutely is.
Kavaris Tears type number. Yes. If it's a huge, I'm not saying that I'm predicting that it will be or it should be. I'm saying if Myatt or Grimmer is just, if they're both raking and they have to be in the lineup and Reese is not, then you would put the better bat in right field and sacrifice some defense all day.
Nope. 1,000%. 1,000%.
That's just a hypothetical. I'm not saying I think that it would be the same thing at first base with Levi.
Well, I mean, if you're not buying Reese and you think that's going to fizzle out, then that is a question that they're going to face at some point.
Out of those 3, ironically, and maybe it's just because we haven't seen him, if I had to buy one of the 3 right now, out of those 4, I'd buy Grimmer. And I love Myatt. I've been tooting his horn all day, but I mean, Grimmer, or all month, Grimmer is the closest hitter that they have to Brown, in my opinion. He's long. He's got the easy pop. He's got the swing that's under control. He's got the flat bat path. Like, I'd almost buy Grimmer over any of those.
For
that's
me,
a bold take.
that's a bold take.
I'm trying to overreact, to be honest.
That's a bold take for me. I like Grimmer, but I think he also has a lot to prove. I mean, what on his baseball card?
All 4 of those guys too, don't they?
Between Myatt, Grimmer,
and Reese is the only one of those guys with a home run in Omaha. I'm not taking
Reese
that away
is the most
from
proven out of those 4. Who's the 4th?
But he's also the most proven in a bad way, unfortunately.
Yeah, he is. Absolutely. He's also the best defensive option of the 4. And I know you take the offense over the defense. Like, I'm assuming that Reese isn't an automatic out every time he steps to the plate when I'm having these thoughts. I'm assuming he's serviceable at minimum. He's, you mentioned earlier, as good of a defensive right fielder as you're going to see in the league. So unless he's an automatic out, he's absolutely going to be in the mix for playing time.
Yes.
I don't think there's going to be
is not like a shortstop in terms of defensive value. Like
1,000%.
How many runs can you save in right field? 5 in the whole year?
I agree with you. I certainly agree with that thought. Here's where I am at with it, though, is I would rather pull one of the middle infielders to get Myatt in the lineup and figure out the defense from that standpoint than taking out one of the corner infield spots.
No. You can't sacrifice defense in the middle infield. Did you not learn anything last year?
No, I did not. I'm not sacrificing. Have you heard my plan?
No, I haven't heard your plan. Let's hear it.
So how do you know I'm sacrificing defense if you haven't heard my plan?
I haven't seen Myatt play defense. You're just telling me he's a bad defender. So
I'm not saying he's a bad defender. I said I don't know what defender he is. I have not seen it, but he is known to be a slugger. That's the only thing people talk about with him is that he slugs the baseball. Just
Yeah.
like when people talk about Blaine Brown, he slugs
So
the
far,
baseball.
that's accurate.
Right. I don't know what Myatt is, but he's a slugger. And I want to see Myatt in the lineup. And if Grimmer's healthy, I would pull Ariel and then have Jay or Newstrom at second base, which that is not sacrificing defense. Manny's still my shortstop. I'm not moving that. I'm changing second baseman out. And like if I put Jay at second, that would allow me to slide Reese over to center, which I'm hesitant about that. But Elander has been adamant that Chapman can do it at a high level. So I will take him at his word. And if that is true, I don't think you're sacrificing defense with Jay and Manny up the middle or Newstrom and Manny up the middle, Chapman in center, and then some form of combination of Grimmer, Brown, Myatt in left, right DH. AKA take Ariel out, put Myatt in, figure it out defensively.
Well, that's
I'd rather do that than what we were previously talking about.
Yeah. That's a case to spin it where you're really like, okay, we're valuing offense. And if Reese can play center, you can add more value defensively in center if he is struggling at the plate.
Yeah.
Because he's had weekends where he's been unbelievable in conference play. It's just his lows are so low. It's like, golly. And I know people are going to be like, golly, I didn't know Heflin hated Reese, but it's just a overreaction Sunday.
It is, and we're about to.
If we're gonna make an offensive lineup, then take out Ariel and do it that way. So
In all reality, these are just fun conversations. We want to emphasize that fun conversations.
We want them all to play for now.
Yes.
We'll decide later, and then we'll text Elander, and he'll do what we say.
They'll decide for themselves by how they play. But for us, from the outside looking in, these are fun conversations. I think we have proven that we will be objective with our thoughts. We're not afraid to share what is on our mind. Look, Tennessee has a ton of talent. They're trying to get a lot of different guys opportunities, and we're not at all trying to write anybody off. But going off of one weekend of play, just sharing our thoughts off the dome, off the cuff. This is kind of where we're at, and each of those guys have a lot to prove. Blake Grimmer has a lot to prove. Tyler Myatt has a lot to prove. Reese Chapman as well. Ariel as well. And they should not be given the world after one weekend. They should also not be cut after one weekend. Like it's baseball, too small of a sample size. These conversations will continue to evolve, but these are just look. We love college baseball. These are where these conversations stem from, and certainly being based here in Knoxville, covering Tennessee, we're going to have these type of conversations. So, just emphasizing that, hey, just because we're sharing this thought, that thought, we're not writing this guy off, that guy off. They'll sort it out on the field with how they'll play, and they'll go on their merry way.
You remember when I gave out my Omaha 8?
Yes.
And one of them was TCU.
Yes.
Feel good. Good start for them this weekend. Knocked off the Hogs.
That's your Blaine Brown?
No, you said we're not giving anybody the world or cutting anybody. And
I'm giving Blaine Brown the world.
I was like, except Blaine Brown.
Except Blaine. I actually I had that thought in my head while I was saying that, and I meant to throw that in there. I just forgot. We're not giving anybody the world, but Blaine Brown, Henry Ford, Tegan Coons, Landon Mack will throw in there. I think you'd be willing to give the world to Evan Blanco.
I'd give the world to Blanco over any of those four guys.
Oh no, you wouldn't.
Yeah, I would.
All right, I just want to see Blaine Brown on the mound now. I mean, everybody's talking about
I thought when they DH'd him that he was going to pitch, but he didn't.
Did too. Maybe the game did not allow them to do so. I don't know, but Georgia. A lot of talk about Georgia's two-way player. I think Tennessee could have could have its own.
Yeah. Yeah, George.
Yeah, go ahead and pronounce his name.
Yeah, I'm not. Ishikawa, something like that.
All right, on that note,
We're so far in. If you're still listening, you're not willing to cancel anybody anyway. So just
that's true.
I didn't have the name. I know it starts with an I, and I know it's of Asian descent. That's all I know.
Imanaga.
No, he pitches for the Cubs.
Oh, okay.
Showtime.
All right. We're gonna get out of here before we do cancel ourselves. I prefer Tanaka, FYI. Masahiro Tanaka. That's who I prefer. But we're gonna get out of here before we. No, he's a Dodger, so I prefer Yankees. Jin-Ming Wong, Hideki Matsui. We have great Asian descent and tradition with the Yankees. Okay. And on that note, we're gonna get out of here because, like I said, we're gonna cancel ourselves if we don't. And I'd prefer to keep my job and be able to feed my kids. So, as Will mentioned, this has been a long podcast. Apologies to those who prefer a shorter version. I'm sure you can find those out there, but do feel like we had good conversations and good reactions. So appreciate everybody who has been listening. And we will be back later this week for a bit of a preview and a reaction to UNC Asheville midweek game, first midweek game of the season, see what transpires there under the Fighting Elanders and how he approaches a midweek game. I'm sure there will be things to react to out of that game with the lineup and so on and so forth. And then we'll have a bit of a preview before the Fighting Nick Sabans come to town next weekend and play in Lindsay Nelson Stadium. So appreciate everybody who has stuck with us through the longevity of this podcast. And Will, always appreciate you, my man.
You as well, Ben. It was a longy but a goodie. Any prediction on Tuesday's starter?
Ooh, that's a good question. I could see Appenzeller starting.
Nah. Yeah, maybe.
What
about Bishop? Jax Bishop. I saw him walk out of the dugout one time this weekend. I was like, maybe he's your Tuesday guy.
No, not Bishop, because he's still coming back from Tommy John.
Oh.
He's one of the two that are ahead of schedule.
What's the freshman righty who's ready to go?
Oh,
it could be
Ethan Biotto.
Or it could be, who was the freshman DH that got the nod for game
Taylor Tracy.
1? Did he start?
He did not play this weekend because he was
who was the left-handed hitting DH? He was a freshman.
When? Like this past weekend?
Yeah. Game 2. Didn't go well.
That led off?
No, he was like the 9 hole, number 12.
Oh, Evan Hankins.
Is he a two-way or is it just Tracy?
I think Hankins signed as a two-way. I don't know if he. Let's see what the roster
then he's
says.
not. I was thinking Tracy.
You're thinking Tracy.
Tracy
he could. I would be surprised, although
he starts Brown.
Blaine Brown. That I was going to say that. Sign me up.
That would be a real Tony Vitello move to start Blaine Brown Tuesday.
Buddy, if he starts Blaine Brown, if Blaine Brown pitches a 1-2-3 inning, I don't care that it's UNC Asheville. If he starts and pitches a 1-2-3 inning and like strikes out 2 of them, the fastball's up to 95-ish, 96, and then he comes to the plate in the bottom of the first and hits a jack. Oh, buddy, I might go streaking across the field if that happens.
Yeah,
I get to watch Shohei Brown all year.
He's got to go to left, otherwise he's out of the game.
DH him, put Tyler Might in left.
You pitch him and then move him to DH?
Start him at the DH.
You can do that in college, can't you? You can start him as the DH/pitcher.
I think. Don't quote me on that. I might be wrong. I kind of feel like I'm wrong.
I thought they made that rule change kind of for CAGs.
I think you're right. I hope we're right.
I think that would be the way to do it, because if you bring him in, unless you put him back in left, then you're getting squirrely. We should know that, but we don't. It's also late. Sorry.
Yep.
I just wanted to extend the long podcast, see if we could break our record. We talked
I
all off season about how efficient we would be, how quick
I
we would
know.
be, and then we get on here and it's like our longest one ever. But we've enjoyed it. So
Here's the devil's advocate to that. Here's the argument to, they're talking too much. Which, look, I'll be the first to admit, I talk too much. Forgive me. Sue me. Will also loves to talk. We both love to talk. Not a great combination for efficient podcasts. But where else are you going to find a better conversation? Where else can you ask a former Tennessee baseball pitcher to break down the importance of right-on-right changeups?
that is not where I thought you were going with that point. I was just going to say we did
Or
a
talk
lot of
about
listening in the past, and now we get to do a lot of talking.
Yeah, you did a lot of
And
listening to me.
that stays, if you're still listening, that stays on this podcast between our circle of people.
The
Not trying to
importance
take
of
shots.
talking about the cutter slider hybrid.
I'm just saying I'm not a
Where's you gonna
doctor.
get that? You were trying to get us canceled. Well, make your prediction for Tuesday's midweek starter. I'm gonna go final answer. Cameron Appenzeller.
Final answer, Blaine Brown. Final score, 19-1.
But if they want Appenzeller to be a true weekend arm, would they start him on a midweek? I mean, he's not going 7 in a midweek game, but like a bullpen type of day, and still be good for the weekend, especially since he's not starting on the weekend.
My thing is he threw the most innings of any reliever this weekend, so why would he throw Tuesday?
Yeah, but he also only threw 22 pitches.
In 3 innings, 22 pitches? Or was it 2 1/3?
He threw 2 innings.
2 innings.
Faced 6 batters, struck out 4 of them.
Yeah, he may get an inning Tuesday, but I wouldn't care if he didn't.
Okay, well, fair enough. So, I mean, it's got to be somebody off the beaten path. Maybe Brandon Arvidsson opens the game.
Do you remember who opened the game in last year's first midweek? I'll give you a hint. They opened the game this weekend, too.
No. Michael Sharman?
No, they opened the game this weekend, meaning they started.
I know what that means.
Only one of them out of the 3 wore a Tennessee uniform last year.
Oh, Teagan?
Yeah.
Oh.
I'm pretty sure Teagan started the first midweek. He threw like 1 inning.
I thought you were talking about like somebody who had left.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No. There were some transfer Vols that had good weekends. Michael Sharman, Dalton Bargo. There's another transfer pitcher who had a good weekend. Who was it? Started a game. Deloy was not in Georgia Tech starting rotation. I do think he pitched well when he pitched, but he did come out of the bullpen. Braden Sharp pitched well for Rice. So, all right, it's time to get out of here before you make another joke and also try to cancel us. Everybody who is still listening, thank you for sticking with us for 2 hours. We will try to be more efficient going forward.
We will Thursday or whenever we do the next one.
Yes. But I enjoyed it.
This one was fun.
It was fun. It's 2 hours. I enjoyed it. Thought it was a great conversation, and I look forward to many more this season, my man.
You as well, brother Goodwrench. If you can't see the hat, can't even talk anymore. It's too late. Who's on the side there? Dale
Earnhardt, baby. 3's up. Yeah. Daytona 500 today. Were you locked in to the 500?
NASCAR's not my thing, dog. I watched Arkansas and Texas Tech in a good one. Went to extra innings. So
you didn't keep up with Scotty Scheffler?
And I watched Vandy get that butt waxed. Yeah, Scotty went like, 63 today, made a run at it. Back-to-back weeks, he would have won if he could just get off the schneid on Thursday. He puts up a bad round on Thursday, gets behind, and then makes a charge, but it's too little too late. Cool for Morikawa to win. First time in like over 2.5 years. And he and his wife announced that they were expecting this week, which is cool.
It's pretty cool.
And you're smiling because I am too. 3 months out, by the way, Ben.
3 months out. You getting nervous?
No, but we moved a bunch of nursery stuff in this weekend and did some rearranging, moved the office. As you can see, I have a new background. So like I'm in my new office space. Today got a little bit of nesting. What's it called? Nesting? Like when
Yes.
the baby's close and you want to I cleaned the whole garage today, reorganized. By clean, I mean like
the female is the person giving the baby is most known to do the nesting, but I suppose males can as well, especially because they get lumped into it.
I mean, I nest in like a manly way, like the garage.
Garage. I've got my Zen in, and I'm nesting in the garage.
Yes, sir. Good night, brother.
Benjamin is the name, correct?
Houston. It's a family name.
Oh, you agreed to Houston.
Houston.
Or decided on Houston. That's it. We're gonna Houston Heflin.
Houston Scott Heflin.
Oh, my oldest's middle name is Scott.
It's my father-in-law's name, and Houston is my dad's middle name, my older brother's middle name, and my grandfather's middle name. My grandfather's William Houston, but we're using his first name, not mine. I'm George Houston. My father is my father's George Houston. I'm William George. So there's all sorts of combos.
All right,
but I'm the only one without Houston.
Can I at least be the godfather?
What does that mean in literal terms?
Honestly, I don't know. I think maybe if something were to happen to you, then I might have to be in charge.
Do you want to be? Sure.
I doubt that your wife would sign off on that.
I don't know who she would sign off on. You're certainly in the running, though.
A man who promises to take responsibility for the moral or religious education of a child and traditionally presents the child at baptism.
That's not what I thought it meant either.
Promises to take responsibility. So like an uncle, but I make sure that young Houston doesn't get off the path that he needs to be on.
Can you do Houston?
That? Maybe. I don't know.
Are you gonna teach him to be
I'll teach him right from wrong.
Ball listener and share with 5 friends?
Yes, I will. All right. Good night.
For Ben McKee, I'm Will Heflin. This has been your first series recap edition of the Go Vols 24/7 Diamond Vols podcast here on GoVols247.com.